This is the second arrest. The first one, there was information that he was released. But apparently, I forest with the people, powerful people in society. This one is not even no longer about abuse. We believe in God, but not only that, God can fight for them. We get the police to use cassava and arrest people. And I don't know how many people have seen. And what I used to say is that for the period that the devil has been around, I've never heard that the devil reported anybody to the Nigerian police. So why are the pastors using the police in Nigeria to fight for them when they say that they can fight for everybody? This tells you that it's not who they say they are.
Let's just so you talk about police picking people up. You yourself, you've been the subject of this in the time past several times. Now let's talk about even the most recent one that happened earlier this year. You were being picked up by the Department of State Services.
I wasn't picked up. They wrote me that I should take down the post that were on my social media, and I responded to them on my social media, and I wrote it down the post. So they took me to court. So I appeared in court. That was how it started.
So after the appearance and then the court ordered, then just outside the hospital.
But people things started in December of 2005. And the allegation was that I called the president. We're going to Brazil and that there's no corruption in Nigeria. So we were going on and we got to the point where we filed for the judge to show out. So then we come back to continue the trial. And on one occasion, I could not attend the trial. And I wrote to the judge, said, look, my lawyers, who were all pissed off with the judge, resigned. I had over 13 lawyers, I resigned because the judge asked my lawyers to come and down. It's never heard of it in Nigeria's jurisprudence or legal history. So, I can't take this anymore. The petitions against the judge, she really knew all the things that the plan. So, on one of the appearances, I came to Lagos with a new lawyer, the senior advocate of Nigeria, who is So while I was there, we were in court a day before, maybe Friday, and the judge was outside. So he said, oh, you come the next day. And I said, I can't make it because I have to go look for a new set of lawyers. And I wrote to the judge. The judge was told that Sowore cannot attend court. This is his letter. I read the letter. But the government lawyer said, no, should have been absent. So the judge, in my absence, reported that he didn't tell us to go to prison. So I sat back and went back to address our supporters outside and came and waited for the prison officials to take me to prison. While I was waiting, the DSS people came and attacked me and forced me into this elevator, took me to the basement of the federal record. And they were planning to drive me to their office. But in the building that a lot of the supporters and Nigerians resisted them. So they ended up not being able to take me to their office. And prison people came and some meters they did. We got there, they were waiting with the black barrier. That's copying that prisoners.
So like trying to transfer you from one.
So I said to them, when you arrest the criminals in Nigeria, the ones that still believe, don't put them in black barriers, they're not going in black barriers. So I said, the DSS is our national bread. I want some decency and drove me down to prison. And upon arriving prison, that's Kuchi prison, they went to meet the prison official, insisting that they should put me in a place where I would not be comfortable. So, put in general population, innocent men. And while I was there, I discovered the line, because people were coming. And I was when they were coming there, and they were 11 days.
Why do you think that this...
I asked me to now apply for another pay.
Your legal battle now. especially public attention to some form of taking it away from the case itself now to some form of personal interest from the DSS.
Yes. Well, the DSS has always been interested in my case since I was in university. So one of the arrests I had when I was in university was the DSS when I was training president. When I went to do my NYSC, well, the DSS that arrested me and made sure I didn't get my NYSC certificate. So we have a long history. In 2019, when I was planning revolution, well, the DSS that
So what does this imply about civil liberty in Nigeria?
There's no civil liberty in Nigeria. No, the only people who have liberty in Nigeria are people who have liberty to steal, not for civilian, not for citizens. So it is how the state works. I don't want to call it a good state, but there's nothing to do about that. You know, they have this natural hatred for certain people who are always in their mind, stubborn and uncompromising, and they wait for you wherever they can find you. Mind you, they don't only arrest me and detain me and hook up whenever I'm driving out of the country, they wait for me at airports to make sure that they seize my passport. They want to make sure that I miss my flight under the guise that we are checking something of passport. So what I started doing, which made them back up a little bit, is that anytime I get to their desk, I put on my camera and go live. So nobody wants to show his face. So whenever I'm approaching, like, if I'm going to do their checks, they should always come. It's come because they've seen that I'm traveling. They don't hide it. So I used to travel by road from Ghana to Nigeria. And they come and they said, look, this is my country. I can't keep hiding away from these people. That's why I come to Nigeria. But they've been after me for a long, long time. It's just like the FBI, the US was after Martin Luther King, after Malcolm X. The FBI major threats to incompetence and corruption in every country. You know, so this system is happening.
Okay, just to take you back to what you said about the DSS detaining you amongst to be tuberculosis. Do you think this was a deliberate act and what motives were behind it?
Well, it is just hoping that something bad will happen to you. If they can't carry that, I mean, look at what the attack on me within the Federal High Court is the second. There was an attack in 2019. They came into the courtroom to abduct me, get a policy degree. And the judge fled. Her wig was in the air. Oddly, it's the first time I knew that the judge knew how to run faster than the other things. It happened in this country, and they get away with it. And that is why you see there's a continuation of it. When you mentioned earlier, particularly some of these DSS directors, especially the new one, the one I said now, Tosin Achai, has particular interest, because is a very insecure person. Most of them are not competent. Sometimes they get a job because of their first and last name. And it's determined by the president. The president is Europe, and wants to fill every position with those people. So not only has he taken this person against him, he has not extended it by arresting personal assistant, detaining her, because he wants to do everything he can to see if I can get to show. And this was just after I came out of prison. And he goes after, and by the way, they still had my phones since 2019. And now they're taking more phones. Yeah.
Let's go back to 2019 now. There was this back and forth between yourself and the former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami. And as the chief law officer at that time, you know that was the period when you were being detained for about over 100 days, 124 days, if I'm not mistaken.
5 months.
And then you were also not allowed to travel for the duration of about 5 years. And so, what does this tenure represent for you in terms of state-sponsored prosecution? And then I would also like you to add this one to you. Recently, we've also seen the former Attorney General and the Minister of Justice also being quizzed by the EFCC. He's being asked to forfeit about 58 properties and about 212 billion naira. What does this also imply to you in terms of alleged corruption with this particular person who was after you at that time?
No, you see, why didn't he go after me? It was because I was reporting on their corruption. Yeah. Malami, for instance, I've always wanted to meet. And so there was a major report that came in 2019. But people didn't pay attention to it. The central bank government at that time, and it's a Medfield, Godwin Medfield, had done a deal in which they were trying to cover up about 500 billion debt in the central bank. And we got an audio of it. And that's what actually triggered my arrest. So Medfield was the one who paid for me to say, look, yes, this guy is planning a revolution now. But he has also created some serious problems. Because that report almost made him lose his second term. So he funded extensively my persecution. And so Malami, of course, was also staying. And while I was in Abuja, was the chance that I also did a lot of reports. All these properties that were taken from Malami was actually listed by Zara as far back as 2020, 2021. Because the time was really waiting for some and saw this magnificent luxury buildings. And this was a guy whose only car before he became Attorney General was a Toyota Camry. He used to one. And suddenly he was into obscene wealth. So
once you get into politics,
that's what it is. That's really a key for our politics in Nigeria. Because it's the only job almost in the world where you can walk into the office wearing bathroom slippers and you can walk out with, designer wears and next you're driving like a pet before you become a police officer. And the next one is you have Rolls Royce everywhere serving as Uber police. So that is why it came. So Malami's own case was always well. But we had a moment while I was in court one day. He was walking past with his son. And I called him, I said, I was shocked to see him. I said, Malami, come here. And he came. I said, do you remember me? And I said, well, I remember you. I said, you see your life? The other day, you were actually there, acting as if it was, right? And now look at this, you are facing,
And the charges against you at that time was a very bogus one, being charged for treason.
Yeah, of course. Everybody understands it. That's why all this pressure is going. But it's just hoping that you can't kill him in some civil, create a situation that he will die or kill himself. But that's how these people work. I also made that with fire on the falls in that corner. You see what you guys are doing, but also normalize oppression. And now, when the tenor is of the candidate, the tenor is of last unity, you look at 2025, you would almost think that I will not make it.